Yeah, last week we were treating on ISPS. I was trying to catch if anybody was there so you could tell me what went last week. But because of time's sake, I'll shoot straight down into the lecture for today, which is International Safety Management Code. And it's going to be quite an interactive class as well. So with that, I say welcome everybody. Today we are going to be talking about the, like I said, International Maritime Management Code, and this applies to all the passenger ships and cargo vessels of 500 gross tonnage. And also, this is mandatory under the SOLAS Chapter 9, and this came into force because of accident. Like I keep saying, that most accidents leads to code, and most code comes from, some of the codes come from accident. They look at what has happened, then they look at steps at which we can prevent what has happened in order for it to not happen again. And this came into force um, July 1st, 2002. Why? Because of a recent accident that happened, and that was the era of free enterprise. That was a Roro vessel, and there was no checklist. So you can imagine those times when there was no checklist at all. There was no proper procedure to be followed. Everybody just do as they like and act based on your own professionalism. And everybody was like, this is not a way at which we are going to be carrying out stuff. What are we going to do to prevent this? And this did not only come out of one accident, but this has always been happening. Human error. So in light of what I'm saying, human error practically led to ISM code. Then let's put a standard, let's put the restriction. And that's where International Safety Management Code came out. And what are the objectives? The objective is one, to ensure safety of life at sea, to prevent human injury or loss of life, and also to avoid damage to the environment. So the major stuff is ensuring safety of life. It prevents human injury. If out of free enterprise, we lost people, we lost damage to the environment. There was damage to the environment as well. Then this ISM code also establishes the following um, safety objective, which is what provide safe practice for the ship. And like I told you, everyone was doing everything, based on their own ideology, based on what they think, based on what they have been seeing other people doing. And there was no laid down procedure. There was no checklist. For instance, if you are doing a bunkering operation, what are you supposed to check? What was the essential thing you're supposed to check that will make sure we don't forget? So this is when it came out with safe practices for ship operation and working environment. Also, establish safeguard and identify all the risks. So you identify all risks that might be happening, just like, for instance, that's where we really come into in DP offshore vessels. We bring in a DP checklist, then we identify what happened. Are we going on a blow-on zone or a blow-off zone? Then if you are on a blow-on is when the wind is taking you towards the installation. What are other safeguarding measures that you put in place? Are it something that you want to reach the vessel? These are also when it comes down to permit to works as well, then it comes down to risk assessment. What safeguards are we putting on all identified risks on board? Meaning, before ISM came into place, it was a risky fiasco, it was a risky environment seafarers were working. And like I was explaining in ISPS the other time, when you have situations where people are going to sea and are not sure of coming back, then we will have less seafarers. So this is why this code were being put in place and being made mandatory under the safety of life at sea. The ISPS, like last week, and then the ISM. This ISM itself is to ensure and is to protect all of us. Yeah, I know people will say it carries a lot of paperwork and documentation, but this documentation also serves as a way to really check themselves. Also, continuous improve of safe management skills of personnel ashore and on board. And of course, this include, preparing preparation for emergency related to safety and environment protection, meaning emergency preparedness. So for a master who does not have a procedure of, oh, my ship is grounding, what is the normal procedure? What am I to check? Or a ship has built, what are the checklists there? Or there's ingress of water, what are the checklists that you carry out? Everyone just goes and do what they want to do. No, but no, this sets way of improve safety management skills of both people ashore and people on board. And how this is when drill metrics came in. So you can imagine a scenario where there was no drill metrics. Everyone was, there was no drills. So when the fire came or when the grounding came, there was no one who knows exactly what to do, but everybody acts based on their own mental state. So let's try and picture all the documentations we are doing now to ensure safety on board, and imagine what people are doing without all those documentations, without drills, without permit to work, without risk assessment, without checklists, without making sure there is also a line of communication between the shore and the office. So this is where we got the objective that ISM must work on. And like I told us before, it was put into the SOLAS convention to make sure everyone follows the ISM code. And also, it's for all ships, like I stated before, all ships of, 500 gross tonnage engaged on international voyage. Also, passenger ships. So every passenger ship must have international voyage. If your ship is less than 500 gross tonnage, you might go down to something different. There's one on one of my ships. I'm trying to get the name of the code that we are using because it's less than 500 gross tonnage. And I will remember before we finish, but some ships will not even follow the ISM. Some ships now follow another different code. But if your vessel is above 500, you must have the code. And then also it brings responsibilities for the ship owner to follow, the charterer to follow, and even most especially the crew to follow. I'll jump on the history because I've spoken about the history. But then let's go to certification of ISM, because when we are having our exams, our lovely exams under OOW, ISM is a favorite topic. Chief mate, ISM. Masters, ISM. Interviews, ISM. Because you cannot escape ISM. And one of the most important documents that we all have on board is the DOC, which is the what? Which is the document of compliance. The document of compliance, the DOC, will be issued to the company to say, okay, yes, this company, you are complying with the ISM code for these types of ships. It will be issued to the company following a successful audit of the shore part. And that's one thing about the ISM. ISM does not deal with people on the ship. It deals with people ashore as well. Then this document of compliance also is an evidence that the system is in operation, and at least one type of ship, meaning a DOC might have, like a tanker on the DOC that, okay, this company is able to certify that it can comply with the ISM code for tanker types, for having tanker on their vessels, in their fleet. So if you have 20 tankers, you already have a DOC that covers it. So like, for instance now, a practical example of my own company right now, we have to apply for us to bring in another new type of vessel that is not a passenger vessel. We now need to go and meet again and apply for a DOC to prove to the MCA that we can handle passenger ships and we can also handle cargo vessels. So what am I trying to say? If you're having a vessel where you have only supply ships, you are going to be having one DLC that carries, that certify you that you are going to be, you can be able to handle this type of vessels. So you have another type of one again, then you have that DLC that satisfy you can have this type of vessels, this type of vessels. But at least you must have at least one type of ship. Then this will be specific, there will be audits, which is a 5-year audit. They'll carry out an audit, which is the renewal. Coming down again, we have annual verification. So we have internal, the DOC audits where we have internal report, and then we have the flag state coming again to come and certify us every 1 year. Now, this second most important document when we are dealing with ISM is the one on the ship, the one issued to the ships. So like I said now, we have 20 vessels, they are all tankers. And my company will be issued one DOC to show that my company is complying with ISM and dealing with tanker fleets. So one DOC that covers the whole fleet of vessels. Now, each of those fleet of vessels on their own, we have an SMC. And this SMC is to certify that yes, this vessel has complied with the ISM code. And how do you comply, especially if you're having a new vessel? This will be issued to the ship. They'll first come, they carry out an audit. Then they see, okay, you have put in the ISM, which I will still go into, ISM Safety Management System, which is the SMS. They see that you are complying with it, and then they will issue you a 3-month temporary certificate. After that, then they can now issue you with a full-time SMC. So just like the DOC, your SMC is also valid for 5 years. So like I said, we have the DOC for the company and the SMC himself for the ship. Now, what happens if it's a new company or it's a company that is moving into a new flag, or is moving into a new type of fleet, sorry? Then we have a 12-month validity DOC. And this is a question that people really find it tricky in the exam, because they were going to ask you when. So when can we issue you a 12-month DOC? And a DOC is supposed to be for 5 years. So a 12-month DOC is to be issued to what? A newly formed company, like Busayo is opening this company, you cannot get a 5 years DOC. Or a company acquiring a new type of vessel. So like I said, we're dealing with passenger, and then you are bringing tanker into the system. You will have a DOC of 12 months, the temporary one. As long as you are now meeting the requirements, you are showing full compliance before you can be given a full-time DOC. With that being said, I would like to ask, who has seen is the DOC on board? Juliet.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, have you gone through your DOC on board?
Yeah, I've seen a DOC on board.
Have you? What does it entail?
I think the DOC entails firstly, it entails the issuer date and the expiring date too. I think, yeah.
Well, that's it might look like it's a simple question, honestly. But actually it's a simple question, but it's an oral question. And it's another question because everybody will say, why are you asking me this? Of course, it will show this, but what does it entail? So they give you a DOC certificate. The examiner, UK examiner or whoever examiner will ask you, so what is in this certificate?
Yeah, we have the issuing authority of the DOC. That is where it's coming from. The issuing date and the next date of inspection, if it's for the one that is being issued for 12 months, and then it shows the statement of compliance before it is being issued. I think those are the things I can remember I've seen in the
Okay,
DOC
so
certificate.
we need to take note of something that I said about the DOC, which is, what's this?
Capi, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I may add, I think the DOC also, it has a list of ships on it that they strike the ship which the company is, they leave only the type of ship which the DOC is issued under. That is, it's issued to the company. Let's say the company runs tankers. So they list let's say PSV, bulk carriers, they strike those ones out and they leave only tanker there to show that the DOC covers for tanker vessel for that particular company.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm going to. That's another valid point. We need to find out what is important besides the DOC, which is also the type of the vessel. But also, in every certificate, if one of the first tricky question is to say that, yeah, this certificate, a statement to prove that this vessel, or this company is complying with this code. So they will ask you again, okay, what can you find in your load line certificate? Yeah, I keep saying it doesn't look like a question that should be asked for. It's something I've seen in another report and I've been faced myself. While you find your load line certificate, then you start mentioning your tonnage, your this and that. And again, it's looking looking for a statement which is to show that this is complying with the load line convention. So with that, has anybody seen the SMC certificate? Yeah, have you gone through your SMC certificate on board? EA, are you there?
Can you come back, sir?
Yeah, have you gone through the SMC certificate on board?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what can you tell us about the SMC certificate?
Okay, like what he mentioned the last time, the SMC certificate carries the name of the ship, the port of registry, the gross tonnage, and also there is this statement there right below. It carries the name of the company, the address of the company, and there's this statement there right below which shows that that particular ship is complying with the ISM code after they've verified the DOC of the company. So after the verification of the DOC, which is issued to the company, that the vessel is complying with the ISM code as well.
Yeah, that's really perfect. That's exactly what I really wanted to hear. A statement that the SMS of the vessel has been audited and it has complied with the requirements of the ISM code and their verifications. With that, let's keep moving, but we should have that at the back of our mind for any certificates that we're going to have. Now, another important document that all of us have seen on board is the SMS. Apart from people who have sailed with Captain Tayo, because I'm sure he must say, all of you must read it. Who else have read the SMS on the vessel? At least, 60 to 70%. And I'll start calling everybody. You just tell me the percentage, how long you've read it. Because me too, I'm guilty. So don't think that I'm only or asking. But the only person I will not ask on this platform is Capt, because me, I know if you have read, the only thing that can exempt you is just tell me you sailed with him, then I will know, yes, you must have read it. Starting with KM, you've gone through your SMS. How many percent? Don't distance.
I think about 50%.
Good, that's good. JJ.
Let me say 40% of it.
Good. EA.
It's quite much, so let's say 40-50% of it.
Everybody is sticking to 40. Good. Eddie. Is it Eddie iPhone? Is here? Okay. Juliet Kilo Charlie.
Okay, about 20%.
20%. Okay. Let me just quickly. MA, are you there? How many percent? Or MA or NF? Okay. Okay, I'll because of time, let me just I'll move on. And you see that it's quite interesting that when I started off by saying that there's so much documentation that is attached to the ISM code, but it is for our good. Now, are we utilizing it to what percent? Because the SMS, and what is the SMS? The SMS, the objective of it is to what? Is to provide a safe working environment, a safe working practice for us on board. Establish safeguard. I'm getting some messages. I'm establishing safeguard against possible risks. And it's just the objective that's trying to deal with the objective of ISM itself. Then continuous improve of the safety management skills and of people ashore. So the every safe management system that I see compliance it must be compliant with rules and regulations. So our own safety management system in my own company, it goes as per the core reg. So it's just like what steps are you going to take when you are in restricted visibility? Then we go down to rules of the road. We pick out some. We must not go against the collision regulation. If we are going on permits to work, we must not go against COSWAP. Also, if we are dealing with every single thing we're dealing with in the SMS must also be in compliance with what either SOLAS or any other code have stipulated. But this SMS also helps us and guides us to follow mandatory rules to help ourselves. Then also it helps again in promulgation and understanding of the company's statutory regulation and guidelines, which is every company has different ones. SMS. Your company's SMS is different from my company's SMS. My own company's SMS is different from another person's document. And an SMS must be going through review. So the SMS of 10 years ago cannot be the same SMS now, even in the same company. And that is how we get used to utilizing the full function of the ISM. So functional requirements, safe and environmental policy. Safe environmental policy will be stated, and of course, it's policies that even you will see it on the walls of everywhere. I always, on my own vessels, I always make sure I see the, so let them be reminded of safety and environmental policies that the company has mandated them to follow. Instructions and procedures to ensure that safe operations of the ship in compliance with relevant international and flag state legislation. So the SMS helps us to comply with the ISM code. SMS didn't stop there. It now helps us to comply with international legislation, comply with flag state legislation. Then it also defines levels of authority, and I'll show you that in my slide. Levels of authorities and communication between the shore and the ship personnel. So like for instance, in my own site now, I am the DPA. And who is a DPA? I'll still go to that side, but I'll just, for the purpose of understanding this, I'll pick it. So my own DPA, in my own line of authority, it shows that for the ship itself to communicate with the ship owner, they have to do what? They have to pass through me. So they can be able to ring me at night, and I myself can be able to ring my ship owners at night. But the seafarers cannot pick up the phone at night and ring the ship owner. That's a line of communication and authority between the shore and the ship personnel. Then also procedures for reporting accidents and non-conformities. So like I said, an incident happen on board, an accident happen on board, a near miss even happens on board, there must be a form. How many hours are we going to report it immediately? Because even before the accident of error of free enterprise, there have been many accidents or many near miss or many incidents or ups and downs that has been happening, and no one took it into consideration. So now that is why we have it on our ship, especially if you are trading with prestigious or well-renowned clients. An accident cannot just happen and everybody overlook it. The worst thing you want to do is a near miss, because why? The charterer will come on you. You must write a full report. The reports you will keep writing for the next 2 or 3 weeks. You will want to prevent another one from happening. So what am I saying? There's now procedures for reporting every incident. Non-conformities. How are you not complying with the code? How are you not complying with management? How are you not complying with the management code? How are you not complying with other regulations? There will now be procedures. Even if the company itself is not complying, the ship itself can write a corrective action plan against the company. And every company has their own. We also have to find our own. Now also, this is the one that I think we all should start going to go and look at. And this will help us in our exam, the number 5. Procedures for responding to emergency situations. The procedures for responding to emergency situations, which is some manuals, we call it the contingency emergency manual in most companies. But this sets out, okay, in case there's fire, in case there's grounding, in case there's theft, in case there's bomb, it sets out different procedures that you follow. You do not have to follow them, but these are basic ones that you follow as well. But why am I saying you should read it? Apart from that, you see the orals or examiner, we're going to ask you, okay, there's fire on board, or there is this on board, and he's looking for some things. You might be able to mention so many things, but he's looking for some tiny things at which you might have overlooked. But if you are going through SMS situations more often, you will know how important they are. For instance, grounding. What's our SMS saying on grounding? So your vessel was going on a 4 knot speed, and then boom, oh, captain, your vessel is grounded. Then you start raising the alarm, you call everybody, you make sure all the crews and passengers are well mustered without taking sounding of everywhere around the vessel. These are all nice answers, but someone has skipped something. And I've seen this in field orals report. You forgot to stop the engine. So you are still moving and you are doing all the sounding. Yes, I know it's a mental thing, but the more you go through your manuals, the more you go through your drills, you will know that yes, there are even little tiny things that are even very important to you when you face emergency situation. And this is what ISM is trying to explain to us. This is what ISM is bringing to our knowledge. So this is what ISM is trying to tell us. That it's not just about the paperwork, but it's about the involvement of the procedures in this paperwork. Now also, what are the procedures for internal audit and management review? Like I told you, even the seafarers can also, in every structured company, can also put on a corrective action request against the company that I don't think you're following the ISM code, and this is why I'm putting this paperwork. And then the DPA receives it, and it starts going through it itself. Also, it might be in a safety meeting that no, this is not in compliance with what we are supposed to be following. This is not in compliance with the regulation. And then that's where we go through a management review. And also the master, at least once in a year, at least, we go through what they call SMS review. So the master looks at the SMS, it might be in January, June, July, anytime, and then it goes through the SMS and he said, no, this should be corrected. And the only time this can be corrected is based on what has happened or new regulations that has come up. But that is why I told you the SMS of 10 years ago, it should not be this SMS now, or else the company are not doing what they're supposed to do. Internal audit. And the DPA also is supposed to go to the vessels and carry out audit. Remember, we have the external audit, but we have the internal audit itself. But the DPA is supposed to go there and comply, show that people are complying with the regulations. Because I always say that when you do something too much, then you begin to lose out some of the facts yourself. So when you are, okay, you just come up in the morning, okay, we are about to sail, or you're about to do, and you just forgot to sign a checklist, or you just forgot to sign the checklist day one, oh, it didn't matter, day two, it will become an habit for you not to follow the checklist again. And this is when internal audit comes and say, oh, you have not completed this checklist. Forgive me to say, when I was a cadet, when we are coming for internal audit, man, a day before that day, that is when you see papers flying. That's when you see all the checklists that has not been completed, it is now being complete. You see papers, but this is not what the ISM is trying to teach us, not to present ourselves only unacceptable, but to really follow the rules and procedures of achieving a safe working environment on board. So also the seventh one is a system in place for onboard generation of plan and instruction for key shipboard operations. So key shipboard operations, what do you do when you want to do bunker? What do you do when you want to sail? What do you do when you're arriving at port? What do you do when you are departing at port? Even for key workers itself, the master, you have overriding authority on board, the chief engineer, the chief officer, you have to follow who and who. And this is just what the SMS itself is trying to accept. Some funny examiners will ask you, have you gone through your SMS? Okay, tell me one or two things that you find in the SMS. So I'll employ us as well. Let's, in our own time, Captain Tayo will say, if you read and you fell asleep, continue reading till you wake up and keep reading. So in our own time, let's just pick up this SMS and let's have a brief through in it. So tax, like I was saying in the previous one, are divided into two categories. I will not go much into this because there will be question and answer time. But there's special operations and those where errors only become apparent after like hazardous situations or accident has occurred. And there's critical shipboard operations like navigating in confined area, then operation in heavy weather, bunker and oil, and these errors will cause accidents. So there are key errors where we must be able to do or be able to follow checklists. So that is why when you are going in restricted visibility, you are going in confined waters, you are going in heavy weather, you need to start following a checklist. let's say for instance, you're going in heavy weather and you are what, let's say container vessel. So container vessel, what are you putting into place? Is everywhere, is this locked down? Have you checked that you are going to be going through your barometer? As the engine room, have they prepared their own vessel for emergency maneuvering? Because of rolling and shipping and rolling, have you checked that your stability, is there a way you can increase the stability of your vessel? Have you checked that you can remove as much free surface defects that you have? These are things that we will check itself. It's not just we doing our own. So there is checklist for this, for especially critical shipboard operations. And that is where the real SMS come in. There may be special operation, but critical shipboard operation, that is where you'll find checklists. Now the ISM code requirements, it requires, that the ISM, the company will what? The company itself is to develop, implement, and maintain the ISM, and also a safety and environmental protection policy for everyone. And like I told you before, instructions and procedures, lines of communications, reporting of accidents, non-conformity, prepare for emergency situations, and prepare for the internal audit. With that, I'm coming back to everyone in the class now. And I would like to pick somebody. OS. If OS is there, can you just signify?
Yes, Captain. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. So we've talked about audits. So what do you think when an ISM auditor is coming to your vessel? What will you come and check? Actually, okay. I will answer it the way, I will ask it the way an oral examiner will ask you. How will you prepare your vessel for an ISM inspection? Briefly.
Okay, the audit inspections do come if some of the certifications has expired, and check compliance.
Okay, let's stop there. But from what I've said now, how frequent are you going to be expecting an ISM inspection on board?
5 years each, but there are some that comes every year.
Okay, we'll pause there. I will come back.
Okay.
So can someone in the house help me here? If you can just raise up your hand and I'll pick you up, or you unmute yourself and talk. That's why I like to call names.
Snare can say something. Let me help you call people that you don't know how to pronounce their name very well. Snare, NS, or mute.
In academy, we say jump up. Okay. MA, are you there? We have some silent people in the house. I wish I'm not an examiner. Well, I'm going to be an examiner someday. I just want to talk about OS. The answer, yes, you're very correct. We have 5 years as well. But remember I told you that the DOC, they will come to check every year. Annual verification. And then it's valid for 5 years. 5 years, you come again for renewal verification. Your SMC on board comes forth with 3 verifications, which is the initial, your renewal, which is 5 years, and the intermediate. And intermediate is between 2 to 3 years. So at least OS in a year, you should be expecting ISM inspection on board every year. And also in the company as well, the company management will expect an ISM inspection on board. Now the thing is, what are they going to check? What are they checking in an ISM inspection? And that is an oral question coming. I'm going to ask JJ. JJ, are you there? Unmute yourself and tell me, how you prepare for an ISM inspection?
Okay. Thank you very much, Captain, for the question. Just to be fast, the first thing I need to ask myself if I'm expecting an ISM inspection, the first question is, is my vessel ISM compliance? For my vessel to be ISM compliance, that means all my documentation are in place. In fact, before putting all the documentation in place, the vessel itself, the crew themselves, and all the requirements of the ISM, are they in place? Those are the questions I begin to ask myself, and if they are not in place, everything begins to be put in place. And it is expected that an ISM internal audit must have been conducted even before any ISM audit will take place, and so many more of them, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I like the fact that you started with the documentation, because that's the important. Sorry. Yeah, because that's the important aspect, which the ISM will come and which the ISM inspector would like to first come and check. We start with the documentation, the certification, the ISM, the geometrics, and all others. Then we start moving into other checks. With that being said, I still have quite a lot, so I'll move again. I'll still come back to question time. People will be ready then. Companies' responsibilities and authorities. Like I keep saying, this is one of the objectives of ISM, was to break it down for us. And there must be disclosure from the owner, of course, to the administration, who is responsible for the operation of the ship. And the company should do what? Should define and document responsibility, authority, and interrelation of all the personnel that manage different routes. But I'll skip all those that, and I'll come down to where I was talking about before, which is the management, as we can see on the screen here. We see the management. Then we see the DPA. Then we see the commercial, the technical, the marine, the nautical, the crew. From the crew, you can go straight to your DPA. So in the middle of the night, the AB has the right to call the DPA to send in message to tell the ship owner. Even the cadets has the right to call the DPA to tell him to help him send message to the ship owner. So that is why on board, it's going to be a major non-conformity if the crew don't know their DPA. And that's why you see there is a DPA poster posted on your vessel. And this is what ISM is trying to bring into place. It's trying to bring a correlation between what? Between the ship and the shore. It's not just about the code in place, but it's about we ourselves. Do we know the line of communication and authority that we will pass through? Now DPA, and who is it? Well, the person doing this lecture today is a DPA. I'm a DPA. So I'm having access to the highest level of management, providing a link between the vessels and those on board. And then the responsibility of the DPA is to provide also safe operations of the vessels. So the DPA must really be able to react immediately, be able to profile solutions immediately a crew calls up or there's an issue on board. And then he does what? He monitors the safety and the pollution prevention aspect and operations, and also adequate shore support and resources. And that's a DPA's role. And this is why the ISM has stated that, see, every company must have a DPA, and this is your role. It should not be a company like, oh, something has happened to the deckhand, and he doesn't know who to call in the company. He now wants to first reach the master. Now, talking of masters, which is the most interesting position on board, but the roles of masters and authority has been stipulated also in the ISM. And the ISM is trying to let us, even the SMS, to tell you that the roles of masters and responsibilities should be clearly defined also in the ISM, in a language at which everybody must use. The most interesting part of every master, part of the ISM for every master on board is, at least if you have been a master for at least 3 years or 2 years, in my first month as a master, I used this authority, which is called the overriding authority. The company should ensure that the SMS operating on board should have clear statement emphasizing the master's authority. That is, the master should make it, the company should make it clear that the master has overriding authority for decision making and has overriding authority with the options of adequate shore backup. So meaning even the company does not agree with what the master says, this is not supposed to be for debate. Although yes, practically there has been some issues where the company tried to intimidate, but I myself, like I remember when I was first master, like I told you, 1 month, I picked up the phone and then no, Captain, this is our vessel, we must do this. And I'm like, sir, according to the International Safety Management Code, I have the riding authority. I am not selling this vessel until you give me enough bunker, because this is safety. This is safety we're talking about here. So every master, most inspection I've gone and I've experienced, and there's an ISM audit. The auditor asks, master, please can you show us in your SMS, just to show that the master have read this in the SMS, where is the master's overriding authority, where is it stated? Also, resources and personnel. The company should ensure the master is qualified and conversant with the SMS. We should ensure there's adequate familiarization for safety and protection, and then also training, SMS training. And this is what the SMS is really trying to bring into place. Emergency preparedness as well. The company should establish procedure for response to potential emergency situations. Programs for drill, which is what I call the drill metrics. And also there's PPE metrics as well. With that, I will pause my slide there. So I'll come back again to the class. Yeah. And that's a brief talk on the ISM. But I would like to pick somebody in the class there. Who do I pick now? Techno is Techno there. Okay, Juliet Kilo Charlie. Wow. Captain Tayo, please can you help me to pick somebody there?
Everybody's hiding. The person that wants to speak is going to get $100. Oh. Just $100. Anybody that is ready to answer the question.
Okay, I'll throw the question to the house and everyone is left. So as for International Safety Management Code, can you tell me what documents and what documents are specific to this code that you find on board? I'll start by saying SMS.
Okay, we have the also we have the SM's safety management certificate on board and a copy of the DOC, which the original should be at the company at the office.
Yeah, that's good. Someone else? What document under the ISM that we might talk about that you might have seen?
NF, Oloye, OS. Come on, guys. There are no wrong answers. Don't worry. It's better to be wrong and in this class than to be wrong in orals.
But yeah, it's good that we spoke about this. But first of all, when we're talking about codes, we need to first start with the certification of the code itself, which, like I started by saying, the DOCs of the company, the SMC of the vessel itself. Then also we remember that the ISM code mandates that the captain must be qualified, the crew must be qualified. So even the certification of the crew also is in compliance with the ISM itself. Then coming down also the checklist itself, the checklist that comes with your ISM, because the ISM, as always said, identify all the risks and put in safeguards as well. And that is where your checklist really comes in. Are we following the checklist as well? And like I said, policies, the safety and environmental policies in different places as well. So why am I stressing this? I've seen different oral questions where they will ask you that, okay, under ISM code, can you mention 10 documents? And trust me, this is not Captain Tayo Busayo's class then. You will be standing straight right there. So everybody, and those times you cannot pick. I will really say it's not time when you say, oh, my security, my ISPS logbook. It's not an ISM, it's not an ISM documentation. And that's another failing point when they give you a code and you are bringing another code into the system. When they ask you to talk about documents under the ISM, and you are bringing DMLC part 1 or DMLC part 2, it has been conflict as well. So with that, I really thank everybody for listening, and we'll pause it. We'll pause the class here.
All right, boss. So, okay, so we'll continue with this next week, is that?